Welcome to the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, where women leaders reveal how to liberate yourself from body battles so you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. I'm Darlene Downing, and I am your host for the event, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. And I have with me today the joyful, nurturing, and deeply authentic Meryl Beck. Meryl is someone that recently came into my world with a mutual friend and colleague, and I really love that she is an advocate for women to embrace self-love and how she's providing real life tools that are helping them restore balance and harmony in their bodies. So Meryl Hershey Beck is a psychotherapist, teacher, author, and healer, and she spent many years ashamed of her eating. For over 2 decades, she used food as her fix, just like the alcoholic uses booze to numb out. At the age of 30, Meryl hit rock bottom and began her recovery from emotional eating, which has been fueled by anxiety, low self-esteem, feelings of depression, and the desire to escape. Meryl became serious about uncovering the root cause of her overeating and incorporated many modalities in her quest for self-understanding. As her self-acceptance grew, her relationship with food changed, as did her career. And in 1990, Meryl became a licensed counselor and had the good fortune of studying energy therapies with some of the founders, such as Gary Craig, Donna Eden, and Tavis Fleming. These tools highly impacted Meryl's inner work and work with clients and led to the creation of an evolved form of tapping, source tapping, which blends several energy techniques and is highly successful at clearing traumas, lessening emotional discomfort, and eliminating cravings. Her best Amazon-selling book, Stop Eating Your Heart Out, the 21-day program to free yourself from emotional eating, tells her story of recovery and includes many activities and techniques to break free from emotional eating. Meryl has taught workshops, teleseminars, and webinars, has presented at national and international conferences, and has been featured on radio and television. Meryl joins us here today to share her love and passion in empowering women as we dive more deeply into the topic of breaking free from emotional eating, 5 steps to stop eating your heart out and start living a joy-filled, authentic life. So welcome, Meryl. I am so thrilled that you are here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Darlene. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Such a pleasure. And I love our topic that we're going to be exploring here a little bit later, a joy-filled, authentic life. I mean, who doesn't want that, right?
Right.
And before we get into that wisdom that you have to share with us a little more deeply, I've been presencing this question with all of the speakers, and this is the container with which this summit is holding. So what I wanted to ask you is, how do you define empowered embodiment?
Well, for me, what I teach my clients is really being centered and grounded in ourselves, having our ball of light, having our power center in here rather than out there. And in order to do that, we really have to have a sense of ourselves and believe in ourselves, rather than caving in to that inner critic that's going, oh, but your hair doesn't look very good today, and look how much weight you're wearing, you know, all that stuff. And I have a whole bunch of work that I do with clients with inner critic that's different than other people. It's about embracing the inner critic, because it's about having some needs that you're not taking a look at, and that's why the inner critic shows up. And once we start embracing the inner critic and changing our relationship, the inner critic voice gets lighter and smaller and quieter, and our empowered voice gets bigger, and we can really own ourselves and embrace ourselves and celebrate ourselves and all our flaws. I mean, we're not an airbrush model. None of us are.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that to the conversation. None of us are. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And if we want to compare ourselves to the models on TV or in a magazine or on a billboard, we're all going to fall short. But how about not comparing ourselves and being able to look in the mirror and celebrate whatever we find that's good? And sometimes the good might be, oh, I like my smile. And good, you start with something,
Yeah.
or I like my eyes. And pick the things you like and start really celebrating and bringing in the joy when you see those rather than, oh, my chin, look at my chin. Oh, my neck's too big. All that. Let's magnify the good rather than magnifying the flaws and the defects and the blemishes. We all have them. We all have them.
Absolutely. And I love that you're inviting us to bring all of ourselves in rather than compartmentalizing. And it's okay that I like this part about me, but not this part about me. Yay. So,
Absolutely.
so it's really, so what I'm hearing is really coming, empowered embodiment to you is really coming home to yourself and to all parts of you.
Right. And celebrating who we are rather than putting down what we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So tell me a little bit about your journey with your body, and I know a little of your story that you didn't always experience this for yourself, and you had your own path of transformation. So I would love, because we really want everyone to receive that knowledge that we're all on this journey together, and none of us have it all figured out, and it's helpful to hear when someone's had challenges and how they've overcome it. So I would love if you're open to bringing that to the conversation and sharing that with everybody.
Sure. Well, when I was very little, I discovered there were certain feelings that didn't feel very good. And I found out that if I used food, I could just push them away and I didn't have to feel them. Oh, what a great idea. But I was getting in trouble for eating too much, so I had to do it in a way that was very sneaky, and people didn't know how much I ate. But they would see me getting wider and wider. And I know that when I got on the scale, and for me, starting as teenage years, my low was 125 and my high was 150. And if I got on the scale and it was 125, I'd, oh, I have everything. I love myself. Na, 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 na. And then it seemed like overnight I got on the scale and it was 150. I was depressed. I was beating myself up. I felt terrible about myself. And I didn't understand how it would go from here to here. It just it seemed like it was overnight.
Right.
So I had tons of body image issues. I mean, I did not like the way I looked. And somehow, I know it's going to sound really strange, but somehow it didn't click that what I was eating had anything to do with the size of my body. Just,
Yeah.
Because if I was using food as was the glue that kept me together. Because I had just different challenges. I know that now when I look back on it, that I was a depressed child and adolescent, and to work with that depression rather than succumbing and really being down all the time, I used food to lift me. It didn't last long. And it didn't just lift me, it also widened me. And
Right.
I mean, I'll give you an example. So what just came to me, and before I start any interview, I ask universe, God, source, whatever we want to call that, to give me whatever it is I'm supposed to talk about, because I have a slew of things I could bring up, and I never know what's going to be important for our viewers to hear or watch and see. So this is what just came to me. When I was 8 and my sister was 6, she was invited to be the flower girl at our neighbor's wedding. And I was deeply hurt. And in my head, I made up an excuse that I was too young to be a junior bridesmaid. So that's why I wasn't invited. I never told anybody that I was hurt. And my mother went out and she bought a dress for me, and it was beautiful. And she bought it, I don't know how many months before the wedding. By the time the wedding came, the seam split when I put the dress on.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I had all those feelings I didn't know what to do with. I just felt less than, not enough. My sister, the cute one who was, she was cute and chatty and social, and I was withdrawn and in my books. She was invited to do this and I wasn't. And I didn't know any other way to cope, so I used the food. And then I felt terrible that I split the seam on the dress. I'm not sure how my mother fixed it so I could wear it that day, but that's just an indication of how I use food. And then I was so upset that my body was big. Not, again, not really connecting, not filling in the dots for myself. And then when I was able to fill in the dots later, I would go on diet after diet after diet. And if I lost weight, then I just gained it back. I remember I went to what I call Fat Girls Camp, but it was a camp at Cape Cod. I was 15 years old. My parents sent me, and they thought I would love this experience. Well, they didn't say, "Do you want to go?" They just said, "Look what you're doing for the summer." And then my dad every morning would put on the song "Old Cape Cod," and I'm sure he thought he was doing it in a loving way to prepare me, but I was like so angry inside and feeling so resentful because I didn't have a choice. And I never told anybody. But I went to this camp, and you have to lose weight at a camp when they have controlled portions and exercise. And I came back, and I remember my dad saying, "Wow, you looked like $1,000,000, but it didn't stay like that very long."
Wow.
And he said, yeah. So, I wasn't able to maintain weight loss when I did any of those diets.
Yeah, and then it's what came to me too is as a child getting that message that because you lost the weight, you were worth $1,000,000, but
Right.
you implying that you weren't before.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I was part of a looking good family, so, that was what was important. It was after World War II, and people who were settled in, after all the challenges of war. That's what many people did. I don't know if everybody, but it was important to have that looking good. We are all okay, and we'll smile. It doesn't matter what's going on inside because what's important is what we show to the world. And I showed the world a very happy face, and I had so many people fooled that even my dentist said to me, "I don't know why you have so many cavities. I know you don't eat sugar."
Wow, really?
People. Yeah. Years later, I went to my neighbor and made amends about all. I would go to her house right next door because the door was always open. We would always walk back and forth into each other's houses. And her mom had a candy drawer, and I knew where it was. And I would head right there if nobody was looking. And so many years ago, I made amends to the daughter, and I said, I just want to tell you that whenever I came to your house, I went right to the candy drawer and I was sneaking candy. She says, "Oh, you didn't have to sneak it. We would have given it to you." And I said, "I know, but I didn't want anyone to know what I was eating. I had to always look good, and be the good girl and follow the rules and be on a diet all the time." Yeah.
Yeah, and the shame that comes from that. And when you look at energy and the vibrational scale that you're on, and that shame and that guilt around food is one of the lowest energies that we can carry in our body, and how challenging that was to be in that space around food. I've never had struggles around food in that capacity. And I just have such compassion for what you went through and anyone who's listening who may be struggling with that, because food is how we sustain ourselves, and we eat food, and it's different from even some other addictions or problems where we don't need to smoke or we don't need to drink alcohol, but we need food. And so, wow, what that was creating for you, that's really thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it reminds me that, so I got my first step of getting help was in 12-step recovery, in a program designed for people with food issues, just like AA. And in AA, they say, you take the tiger, the bottle, and put it in the cage and throw away the key. But when you're working with food, you take the tiger, the food, put it in the cage, and have to open up the cage and let it out 3 times a day, and then get back in without getting scratched. So it's very different.
Wow, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. But you're so right. I mean, you've got to keep entertaining it and not get bit by the tiger. Well, yeah. Well, so what was it that shifted that for you? The letting go of numbing yourself with food and changing your relationship with food and ultimately with yourself? What was the catalyst for that, or that turning point for you?
So as I mentioned, I was on one diet after another after another. You know, I'd lose some weight and gain it back, lose some weight and gain it back. Well, as a child, when I was 12, I think I was 12 years old, I just happened to see on TV the teleplay Days of Wine and Roses. And that's the story of a down-and-out alcoholic who gets help with AA. And as a child, I said in my mind, wow, I wish there was a place like that for me, because once I start eating, I can't stop. I'm a foodaholic. So that's how I labeled myself, which is pretty interesting that at that age, I was able to realize it, my relationship to food. Once I start, I can't stop. Right. And then when I was 29 years old, a friend said to me, oh, I go to this self-help group, and it's based on AA, and we work on food issues. You want to go? And I went, oh, there really is a place like that? It was like incredulous, like, oh, I talked about that in my own head years ago. I didn't know such a place existed. So I went into 12-step recovery, and some people say, oh, I felt like I was home. I did not me. I did not like it. First of all, it was scary for me because I was raised with lots of positive feelings, and the people there were expressing anger and disappointment and sadness, and we never showed that to each other, and I was seeing that for the first time other than on TV.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing that I hated was I was brought up Jewish, and the meetings were held in churches, and the churches had pictures of Jesus and crosses. And somehow, years earlier, I had somehow made this belief that the people out there who aren't Jewish are trying to convert you. So I'm going into the churches going, oh, uh-oh, they're trying to convert me, uh-oh. And then they started talking about God or higher power. And I looked at my friend, and I just rolled my eyes like, oh, this is so queer. So I didn't like it. But I kept going back for two reasons. The first reason is because I saw people losing weight there and keeping it off, and I hadn't seen that anywhere else in my, and I knew myself that if I were to lose weight in Weight Watchers, I would have to be a trainer in order to keep it off. I knew that it wouldn't happen just by being a member. I knew that. And people in these 12-step meetings were talking about how long ago they had lost weight and what they were maintaining. I went, oh, wow. And the other reason that I kept going back, I mentioned that I watched TV. I watched a lot of soap operas. In fact, I would call myself a soap opera addict. And one meeting was so much like a soap opera because we go around the room. It was a small group. We go around the room, and let's say George got up and he said, oh, hi, my name is George, da-da-da-da-da. And, and this week I really am sure that I'm going to come out of the closet and tell my parents I'm gay. And then we go around, and Janet would say, oh, this week I'm sure that Barry's going to ask me out. Well, I got to go back next week. Did George tell his parents he's gay? Janet went to Barry, so it was a soap opera for me, and it kept me coming back. It took me over 2 years to understand the program and to be able to really work the steps. So I want your viewers to know that I do not believe that 12 steps is the only way to go. It was my first step. It took me a long time to get it. And for me, it was the best education I've ever had. And I have 2 master's degrees because I learned about me, and I began my path of personal growth, and it changed my whole spirituality. And I was able to find a loving God and bring that into my life, because before that I had a punishing God. And so it changed so much for me, and it taught me things about the way I used food. So I'm forever indebted to 12-step recovery. And again, I'm going to repeat, some people do not like that approach. Fine, you don't need to do that. It was my way. It doesn't have to be yours. Yeah.
Right. I love that, and I thank you for presencing that we all have a different and unique path, and it'll resonate with some people, and some people they might have a different path. And at the heart of what I'm hearing is that you were ready for something to change. You knew that something needed to change, and you looked for the support that made sense to you at that time. and you started going inside and getting clear on what it was that needed to shift in your life. Is that
Yeah,
right?
right. And Darlene, for me, I think it was the first place that I felt like I was connecting with people who understood me. I mean, I'd get up and I'd talk about how I used to babysit, and I love babysitting because I was alone with my lover, the food. You know, the kids would be asleep, and I'd have the TV, the phone, and the food. And other people came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, that's what I did too." Really, I'm not alone? So that was really, really helpful to know that I wasn't totally unique, because I had this belief that I'm terminally unique. Nobody else does these weird things that I do. And they showed me that I'm just one of, it's one of humanity. You know, many of us do the same things.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I feel that that is a huge piece in us moving forward when we know that we're not alone on the journey and we find the support. And that gets back to what we were talking about before, that idea that we need to be perfect or we've got it all figured out. And, you know, my story was I had to have all that external looking great, and inside I was a mess, you know, but I couldn't let anybody know that. And I had the perception that, well, they really all had it together and I'm just a mess on the inside. And the reality is we all have our stuff, you know, and we're all on this journey evolving and growing, and that, you know, we're perfectly imperfect. And how cool is that, right?
Right. When I was a high school English teacher, and so this is before I started my own process of recovery, I used to teach the poem Richard Cory. And Richard Cory was also a song. Richard Cory talks about a man who was respected and well-liked, and people admire him, and he has everything. And Richard Cory goes home one night and puts a bullet through his head. And I understood. I understood how the outsides and the insides sometimes don't match at all. And isn't it interesting how what we're doing is comparing our insides to everybody else's outsides? We don't know what their story is. We have no idea. We only know what the way they're presenting themselves. We know our own inside, but we don't know very many other people's insides.
That's so true. And, you know, what a great story, and something to reflect on when we feel like somebody, oh, I want their life, or I want what they've got. Like, we don't have any idea. And so we're on this journey together and individually going in and finding out what's true for us and choices that are right for us. I love that. Well, so I would love to guide our conversation now into your area of expertise and start playing with breaking free from emotional eating so we can stop eating our heart out. So I guess my first question, well, how would you like to take the floor on it, or would you like me to ask you some questions on it?
Well, let me just tell you my 5-step recipe. Isn't that an interesting word?
Yes.
And my 5-step recipe and it's true for changing, I think, any behavior. And for me, the behaviors I work with for myself, for my clients, is letting go of emotional eating. Whether it's binge eating or compulsive overeating, it's using food as a drug, using food as our fix. And the first thing is awareness. So if we're not aware, how do we change something if we're not aware of it? If I didn't realize, for years I ate so fast, and then somebody once said to me, wow, look how fast you're eating. I went, oh, I am? I mean, really, I wasn't aware that I was eating fast. So without awareness, how can we make a change? The second step is support, and we just talked about how important support is, to find a place where you feel like the support net's there, the safety net, so that you can do your work. And for me, support comes in 3 different ways. One is finding other people that can support us, whether it's individuals and or a group. Secondly, supporting ourselves. And we support ourselves through the language we use. You know, are we still beating ourselves up? Or are we magnifying our flaws and minimizing our gifts? Because we do that so often.
We're good at it.
What's that?
I said we're very good at that.
Oh, yeah. Are we shoulding on ourselves? Oh, I should do this, I should do that. And, you know, I recommend changing our shoulds to coulds. Oh, I could do this, I could do this. It sounds way different. Could is empowering, should is victimizing. And the third part of support is spiritual support, strengthening connection with a higher power that loves you no matter what. You don't have to be good to be loved by the higher power of your choice. So those are 3 areas of support. The next one, and I want to get into it more with you, is working with personal energy. Because when our energy dips, that's when we're so much more likely to go and grab something from the vending machine or go through the drive-through, because we need some kind of pick-me-up. And there's many other ways to do pick-me-ups other than food. The fourth one is doing your own work, doing our inner work, clearing away the cobwebs from the past. We think that the past is just the past, and it's not. It energetically weighs on us. If we're holding resentments, they're sitting and eating us up inside. And when that happens, then we have to go and turn to food to feel better.
Yes.
And so there's lots of ways to, to work on ourselves. That was just one example. And then the fifth is being conscious of the food choices we're making with food, choosing healthy food, choosing to have a mindful meal. I just wrote about a mindful meal recently in my blogs, which you can get at stopeatingyourheartup.com/blog. And I wrote how to do a mindful meal. And for me, that is totally being present with the food so that you're bringing in your senses, you're looking at it, you're smelling it, you're tasting it, all the senses. You're putting your fork down or your spoon down in between bites. You're letting that food be in your mouth longer than usual. You're not distracted by reading something or TV or listening or talking to a friend or running on the phone or whatever. There's no distraction. You and the food are together. It's one experience. And it's so challenging. It's just like meditation because the thoughts will come in. Oh, I wonder what time my friend's going to call, and did I really do that? All these thoughts come in, or even the thoughts about the food. Gee, I wonder how many more bites I have left on this plate.
Or how many calories I'm consuming, or yeah.
That's right. So it's, I really recommend it, doing it once in a while, if not all the time, having a mindful meal. What's it like to have, it's a meditation, to have time alone, you and the food, and it has to be planned in advance. Because it can't be a time where, oh, I have 5 more minutes, I better, it can't be a rushed meal. It has to be time when you have time to enjoy it. And the word that I love is savor. How many times are we eating and go, oh, where'd it go? Because we were rushing through it. And food is meant not just for nutrition, but also for pleasure. Mark David calls it vitamin P. So let's all put vitamin P from our food and in our life. If we're finding pleasure in other ways, we're not going to always run to the food, too. So those are that's my 5-ingredient recipe.
Those are powerful 5 recipes. So let's do it again. It was awareness.
Okay, so if you want, we can do an acronym. It would be, you know what an aspic is? Aspic's an old-fashioned word. It's like a Jell-O mold, but it was made by the Ritzy, and there were meats inside and different things like that. That's an aspic. Yeah. So the aspic is, so it's awareness, support, personal energy, inner work, and conscious choices.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I love it. So I'd love to guide us now and ask you how common this is, because we were talking before about people can feel so very alone. How common is emotional eating, people using food to nourish in a way that's not healthy for their bodies?
I was thinking about it. There's only one person I know, my dad, who passed away a year ago, who never used food for emotional reasons, but I don't know anyone else who doesn't at some point in their life. Think about it. When we're born, we're immediately trained to take away pain, hunger, because we're crying, we're babies, with the breast or the bottle. So we pair these two things together. Feel pain, food. Need comfort, food. So we have that pairing right from the start. And it continues through our environment. We go to the doctor and we get a shot. What happens after the doctor gives the little girl a shot? Here, honey, here's a lollipop. When we fall down and skin our knee, Mama also often says, here, honey, here's a cookie. So we're using food to distract ourselves from the pain or to get comfort. It's a whole lot like, and again, this I just wrote about this in a blog because it was like such an aha for me. For years, I had a security blanket. Okay, years, and my security blanket was my Baba. And I decided one day that I was old enough to get rid of my Baba because I couldn't sleep without it. So we had a two-story house, and we had a clothes chute, and the clothes chute went down to the basement. So I'd go to get ready for bed, and I'd take my Baba and throw it down the clothes chute, and then run down the basement and go get it. And this happened day after day after day. Take my Baba. Okay, I'm done. Throw it down the clothes chute. Try to sleep, can't sleep. And then one night, I didn't have my prop ready. One night, for some reason, I threw it down the chute, and I ran and I picked up a Kleenex tissue, put it in my hand, and that became my replacement because I was able to hold on to something. Mm-hmm. So how many times are we as compulsive overeaters ready to get rid of the food, but we don't have a replacement ready? That's what happened for me. And when I gave up the compulsive overeating, all these feelings came up, and it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't pleasant, and I thought I was losing my mind because I didn't have a replacement ready. It was very challenging. So that's a suggestion for people if they were to go say, oh, I'm going to give up whatever, totally. Make sure you have some kind of comfort, and it doesn't have to be a tissue, obviously, some kind of comfort and some kind of pleasure to replace it. So, when we give up any kind of food addiction, we need a pleasure or a comfort to make sure we have it right there on hand. And it could be with being with people, it could be laughing, it could be a massage, it could be a bubble bath, whatever, but have it planned in advance. So anyway, to answer your question, we all do emotional eating to some extent. We have a fight with our sweetie and we want something sweet afterward. It's sometimes people get angry and they want to chew on a potato chip. So it's not unusual. The unusual part for people who overdo it like I did is that it's not just one time, once in a while. It's continuous and it's a larger quantity.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I'm reflecting. I don't see myself as an emotional eater, yet I do eat. I love M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and I'll tend to eat those when I'm celebrating something. Like, oh, it's a party, and I get out the peanut M&Ms, and or there'll be times when I really want some chocolate, and if I really look at that, there is this emotional component there, and I'm nurturing myself in some way with that or celebrating. It's that association that I make. So it feels like what you're sharing with me, the key is if that's an area that we want to change in our life, that we don't have to get rid of the pleasure. We just want to find something else that gives us pleasure that isn't what our body needs. Is that right?
And and maybe you're okay with it. Maybe you're okay with the chocolate and the M&Ms. What if you're okay with it? You don't need to change it. If it becomes something like every night you have to have it, and the quantity starts out little and gets bigger and bigger, then you want to look at it.
Right. And pleasure can come in so many different forms, and not getting into this rigid structure of I only have to eat this and I can't eat this after this hour. There's not a whole lot of fun and joy in that either. So finding that balance of allowing yourself to partake of everything and just feeling like you're in control instead of it being out of control. Yeah, right. It's great. Well, we talked about this before, how you used energy and connecting with your energy to help you shift what was happening in your life. And I've been asking everybody to bring an empowered embodiment tool to the table. And you and I were talking before that we're going to play with this together. So I would love to have you bring forward this empowered embodiment tool that you've used that our listeners can do for themselves to support them.
Okay. So as a therapist, one of the techniques I learned a long time ago was something called EFT, and your viewers might be aware of it, Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's Gary Craig's system, and what we're doing is tapping on acupressure points to release physical and emotional pain. And it really works. And once I learned it, I went to my history, and anything that had any kind of emotional charge, I would tap away the charge. Anyway, I personally, it changed my life, and it changed the way I worked with clients. However, my clients were mostly 12-step recovery folks, and they wanted me to bring in, they said, where's higher power? Where's the spirituality piece? And the other thing that happened for them is we'd work on it in the office, and they'd come back the following week and say, how did you do with the tapping? And they said things like, oh, well, I didn't remember what to say, and I didn't remember where to tap, so I came up with a script. So it has evolved into what I now call source tapping. And for people who are familiar with EFT, the way it differs, and we're going to do a demo in a few minutes, the way it differs from the tapping that most people do, the EFT, is we start with connecting with your higher power, God, source, higher self, whatever. So it's a partnership. You have support. You're not doing it alone. We're acting as if we're a tree, and we're clearing from the branches of the tree way down to the roots, the unconscious, and the branches of the conscious. We're going to clear many feelings at once. Now, I work with 12-step recovery folks who tend to not be in touch with their feelings. So when they would come in and say, they'd say, I'm so upset. Well, are you feeling angry or hurt? Yeah. Are you feeling angry, sad? They didn't know. So you don't have to identify a feeling, because we're going to clear multiple feelings at once. And then we're going to bring in a positive, and we're going to use something that Ellie Drake calls the oxytocin breath, and I'm calling it the pleasure breath. And we can practice that right now if you want, because the pleasure breath is allowing you having a relaxed belly, filling it with air, and then when you exhale, doing it with the sound ha, H-A, and a smile on your face. So you want to do it with me?
Absolutely.
Okay, so inhale, filling your belly. Exhale. Ah. And what we're doing is stimulating the vagus nerve, which will produce oxytocin. And oxytocin is the feel-good hormone. It's the hormone that women will produce when we're nursing a baby or when we're having an orgasm. It's the hormone we all get when we're hugging or dancing or laughing. It's the feel-good hormone. So I'm calling it the pleasure breath. So I'm adding all these pieces to the tapping technique, and I'd love to do it with you.
I would love to receive it. I was so excited when you suggested it. So absolutely. And you know what I love about it too is that you've magnified the potency of it by calling in our higher power and getting the body involved physiologically by smiling and breathing. Oh, yay. Okay, so I'm ready whenever you are.
So I want everybody to know that I use it two different ways. One is if you have an issue that's bothering you. Now the issue could be, oh, somebody cut me off in traffic today. Or the issue could be, oh, when I was 5 years old, I was sent to my room without dinner. Oh, so it could be anywhere and any intensity. And I suspect if it's a 20 out of 10, you don't want to start with that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And because when we're having issues, when we have things that bother us, we're much more likely to go back to our old friend, the food, and use that as comfort. And so whatever's bothering us, and I do this on my own walk in the morning. I call it a work walk. Okay, what's bothering me? And then I tap on it. And the other way to use it is for something that you're craving. And it could be, all of a sudden, I'm thinking about those peanut M&Ms. I keep thinking about them. Where did I hide? The thoughts just keep coming in. Well, as soon as you start thinking about it, you could tap away the cravings. So would you like to do it over something that bothers you or a craving?
Well, what I'd love to tap on is this belief that I'm not going to be able to get it all done, that it's too much. What came up this morning was it's too much, can't handle it. So, okay. Yeah.
And when you think to yourself, it's too much, I can't handle it, what's the level of distress if 0 is not at all and 10 is intense?
Well, when I really get into that energy of it's too much, it's like a 7 or an 8.
Okay. And where in your body do you feel it?
Like I'm sure I'm like not breathing fully. It's in my heart. Yeah, like right in here.
Okay, and before we start, Darlene, and I do this when I'm working with individual clients, what would you be comfortable with? God, source, higher power, and for people who I've worked with agnostics and atheists, and we use higher self. What word would you like?
I'm comfortable with God.
Okay. And so people who are watching, I'd love invite you to do it with us and change it so it works for you. So just close your eyes for a moment. I want you to connect in with God and do your own little prayer. And it can be as simple as, please help me with this. And open your eyes when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So on either hand, we're going to chop on the karate chop point. So it's the edge between your little finger and your wrist. And you can't do this wrong. Okay. So either hand and repeat after me. I release this issue to God.
I release this issue to God.
From it. To transform it.
To transform it.
And my relationship to it.
And my relationship to it.
Never to take it back again.
Never to take it back again.
Or passively receive it back.
Or passively receive it back.
And then we're going to use the heart point. Here in the U.S., we pledge allegiance there. It's a sore spot between your collarbone and your shoulder. And if you were to poke around, you go, ow, you go, ow.
Okay.
And anyone wearing a pacemaker, use the right side of your chest. So gently rubbing around in a circle. Even though I have this issue.
Even though I have this issue.
I totally and completely accept myself.
I totally and completely accept myself.
Now, some people that's a stretch, so I say this. Even though I have this issue.
Even though I have this issue.
I want to totally and completely accept myself.
I want to totally and completely accept myself.
Even though I have feelings around this.
Even though I have feelings around this.
I'm ready to release them now.
I'm ready to release them now.
And then top of head. I bring in God.
I bring in God.
Into all the branches.
Into all the branches.
The deepest roots.
The deepest roots.
Around this issue.
Around this issue.
Asking for healing for the highest good.
Asking for healing for the highest good.
Let me just check something. I want to make sure that I have full bandwidth here because it was cutting out. Yeah, I do. Okay. And then inside edge of your eyebrows. So these are different options. You can do it with one hand, like this. You can do one eyebrow, or you can do both. I like to do both. It's totally up to you.
Okay.
I release all the sadness.
I release all the sadness.
In all the branches.
In all the branches.
To the deepest roots.
To the deepest
around
roots.
This issue.
Around this issue.
And hold your fingers still. Think to yourself, the sadness is about, and when you have it, exhale it out with a sigh. Great. Under arm points. Under eye points. So right in the center of your eye. You feel the bone?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right there's a bone. Maybe up a little bit.
There?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a notch in the bone.
Got it. Yeah.
That's the beginning of the stomach meridian. I release the fear.
I release the fear.
In all the branches.
In all the branches.
The deepest roots around this issue.
The deepest roots around this issue.
Holding still in your own mind, and the fear is about, and exhale it out. Under your nose and under your lip at the same time. I like to do it this way. It's easier for me, the sides of my fingers. I release the shame and embarrassment.
I release the shame and embarrassment.
In all the branches.
In all the branches.
To the deepest roots around this issue.
The deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still. Breathe in. Think about the shame and embarrassment, and exhale it out. Just find your collarbone and go 2 finger widths below it.
That little indent that's right there?
Yeah. That's a K27 point for those of you who know those points. I release the hurt and grief
I release the hurt and grief
in all the branches,
in all the branches,
the deepest roots around this issue.
the deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still, think about the hurt and grief, and exhale it out. Underarm points. So it's 4 inches down below your armpit, and you can do it this way like a monkey, or you can do it this way and give yourself a hug, either way.
Hug.
I release the guilt
I release the guilt
in all the branches,
in all the branches,
the deepest roots around this issue.
the deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still, think about the guilt, and exhale it out. Third eye, just between your eyebrows. I release the trauma
I release the trauma
in all the branches,
in all the branches,
the deepest roots around this issue.
the deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still, think about the trauma, and exhale it out. Inside of your wrists together. So it's like where your watch band would be.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do both of them.
Okay.
I release the pain
I release the pain
in all the branches,
in all the branches,
to the deepest roots around this issue.
to the deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still, think about the pain, and exhale it out. Little finger, the edge closest to your ring finger, and it's up by your nail. I release the anger
I release the anger
in all the branches,
in all the branches,
deepest roots around this issue.
the deepest roots around this issue.
Hold still, breathe in, think about the anger, and exhale it out. And then pointer finger, the side of your pointer finger closest to your thumb, and again, it's up by your nail. Yeah. I release all the energy
I release all the energy
invested in this issue,
invested in this issue
so I can use the energy
so I can use the energy
for my own well-being.
for my own well-being.
I totally and completely forgive myself
I totally and completely forgive myself.
for forgetting.
What?
For forgetting.
For forgetting.
I'm doing the best I can.
I'm doing the best I can.
I totally and completely forgive myself
I totally and completely forgive myself
for allowing this
for allowing this
to disturb my peace of mind.
to disturb my peace of mind.
And take a breath. Go back to the issue of, I forgot how you said it.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. And are you still at a 7 when you think about it, or has it changed?
No, it was actually changing when we were tapping. I was having difficulty thinking about it and releasing it. It feels like maybe a 0.5, if that. It's yeah.
Okay. So I want you to hear, and your viewers to hear, that no matter what the number is here, it's just sort of I check in. No matter what the number is, I always do the second step now. And because nature abhors a vacuum, and if we just release these different things, let's put something in that's positive.
Absolutely.
So what positive state of being would you like to bring in? It could be joy, excitement, acceptance, peace, love, whatever you want.
I feel peace. Feels really peace.
Okay, and you're allowed to, you could bring in more than one at a time if you want.
How about joyful peace? That feels good.
Okay, peace and joy, or joyful peace.
Yeah.
So close your eyes and tell me if you can remember a time when you felt joyful peace or peace and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have it, you can open your eyes.
Okay.
And where in your...
Got it.
Okay, so where in your body do you feel that joyful peace or peaceful joy, whichever one?
Yeah. Right here.
Where's here? I can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right center of your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you can put your camera back up. So we're going to be bringing this feeling into everywhere where we just released feelings, okay?
Beautiful.
Starting the top of your head, I bring in this feeling of joyful peace
I bring in this feeling of joyful peace
into all the branches,
into all the branches,
the deepest roots around this issue,
the deepest roots around this issue.
inside edge of your eyebrows. I bring in this feeling of joyful peace.
I bring in this feeling of joyful peace.
And then hold your fingers still. We're going to do that pleasure breath that we practiced already. So it's breathing into your belly and exhaling with the sound H-A, ha, and a smile on your face.
Ha.
Under eye. Under eye. I bring in feelings of joyful peace.
I bring in feelings of joyful peace.
And again, another pleasure breath. Under nose, under lip. I bring in feelings of joyful peace.
I bring in feelings of joyful peace.
And allow a breath. Just below collarbone. I'm bringing in feelings of joyful peace.
I bring in feelings of joyful peace.
And allow a breath. Underarm. I'm bringing in feelings of joy.
I'm bringing in feelings of joyful peace.
A breath. Between your eyebrows, your third eye, I'm feeling joyful peace.
I'm feeling joyful peace.
Allow a breath. Inside your wrists, I feel joyful peace.
I feel joyful peace.
A breath. Little finger, I feel joyful peace.
I feel joyful peace.
And a breath. And then pointer finger, I'm feeling joyful peace.
I am feeling joyful peace.
One more big breath with a big smile.
Oh, how yummy is that? Oh my gosh. That was amazing.
So what are you aware of?
I just feel much more expanded, yet deeply grounded, very light.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So it's really interesting. I have a client who every time she did it on her own, she brought in peace. Every time. And it was wonderful. And then she says to me, and one day I decided to bring in joy. She said, I was happy all day long. So that's why I'm glad you added the peace, the joyful peace, just rather than just peace.
I'm a huge fan of joy, and also a joy that is not just happy joy, but a deep internal joy. Mm-hmm. That's what I was choosing to create in that no matter what's going on, that I have that internally. So I really feel that present in my field and in my body. My body feels very relaxed, yet alive. Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, perfect. Because the comments I get after people do it so often are, I feel relaxed and energized, so you're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Thank you. How did I get so lucky to get that today?
I want to say that sometimes I'm known as the queen of emerging joy. So and my license plate is joyful. Yeah. So
wow.
Joy is something. What's that?
I said you live up to that tagline.
Thank you. So if we were working on a craving, instead of saying issue, we would have said craving. Mm-hmm. And when I work with cravings, you can do it with the actual food in front of you, or just thinking about it will still bring up, because of the mind-body connection, it'll still bring up the desire if you're thinking about whatever that food item is. You actually imagine smelling it and tasting it. It'll bring it right there, so you feel it in your body.
Yes, and that even what we were doing, the feeling that I had was more intense this morning, and I was able to bring it to mind, and it got intense again right away. And so, yes, I love that, and I'm going to remember that with the peanut M&Ms too. Not that I won't still eat peanut M&Ms, but if there's a time when I really want to choose something else, I'll bring it in.
And that's the word, Darlene. It's making it a choice rather than a have to. Because some people don't want to let go of chocolate. I say you won't let go of it, but you can choose to have it rather than, oh, I have to have it right now.
Right.
You know, choices are so much more empowering than have tos.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what this is all about, is getting to that place of conscious choice so that we can create whatever works for us. And
right.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that incredible tool. And I know you've already been so generous with sharing these 5 steps with us and sharing your own story. And you've extended that generosity to offer a free gift, which I just really, really appreciate. And so for our listeners, the link to Meryl's free gift, excuse me, is right below this video. I'd love for you to describe the free gift, Meryl, because you'll do it much better than I will.
So if you go to sourcetapping.com, you can get a copy of the script and the diagram of points. And one of the neat things about the diagram of points is if you have just that diagram with you and you don't have the script and you're out somewhere and you're having some feelings, just pull that out and go, oh, I really have fear, I'm going to work on this point. I really have sadness, I'm going to work on this point. So they're all spelled out for you. And I will say that I've talked to acupuncturists and other people that understand the meridian system, and there's some disagreement about which point is which. So if you want to change the name, if you want to tap here and say it's anger, do it. If that's what works for you, fine. You know, this is what came to us through a friend of ours who's a chiropractor, and there's disagreement, so whatever works for you is fine. You cannot do it wrong.
Yay! I love that you can't do it wrong.
You know, there may be a little bit more effective way, but it won't make anything worse. Oh, and that's the other really important thing. If you're doing it and after the first round, let's say you started at 4 and after the first round you're at a 6, what that tells me is you weren't in touch with the intensity of the feelings. And as you're thinking about it, the intensity rose, and that's fine. That just means it's really present for you. And when you do the second part, which is bringing in the pleasure or whatever the positive is, with the pleasure breath, almost always it'll come down then. And some people are just using the pleasure breath if they can't remember where to tap. So anyway, it's, you know, you guys can have the script and the diagram of points and use it anytime you want to use it. And so this is a gift for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Meryl. And feel free to come back to this video and get it in your body and practice it too, so that when you're out and about and you want to pull on it really quickly, you've got it there. And that was the question I had. How long did it take you? I'm familiar with tapping, and we were still doing like some different spots. How long did it take you to get it in your body so you could just pull it out like that?
Oh, I can't answer that because this was created in '97 and it's been adapted a little by little.
Okay.
So I've been doing it for so many years. You know, I don't know the answer to that. I just it's there.
Yeah.
You know, and doesn't mean that sometimes I don't forget a point or mess things up. It's like, oh well, you know, like, oh, I forgot to do this point. Oh well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh well is a great way to deal with things that we screw up, by the way. Oh well.
Oh well. Yeah, and then if all else fails, just do the pleasure breath and smile, like you said, and just shift your energy that way.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, great. So everybody, I encourage you to go click on that link and get your diagram and use it for whatever it is that you want to shift, that you feel like you're out of control, that you're not in a space of power and choice. It's really, really supportive.
You know, and if there's nothing that you're aware of right now, I have a client who does it every night, and she says, I release whatever negativity I accumulated today. Okay? And I sometimes do it in the morning if I don't have anything bothering me in the moment. I go, I release upcoming stress and the way I manage it. Okay? To set up the day so that I'm not pulled down by whatever stress has come along.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, and you know, when we're tapping into our higher self too, we don't always have to have all the answers. We're making that intention that whatever is present for me that I'm not even aware of, I want to clear that out of my field now, so I have a clean, energetic, joyful space.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Meryl, so much for saying yes to being part of this summit, for sharing all of your wisdom and your story and this amazing source tapping. It's really, I know it's really very powerful. I can speak from personal experience on that. And just for being you and for your contribution in the world. Thank you.
Thanks. And can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
So this is my book.
Oh, great.
Stop Eating Your Heart Out, the 21-day program to free yourself from emotional eating. It's available in print and an ebook, and I did an audiobook, and we now have a workbook that's either a PDF or coming out, maybe it's out now, it's coming out really soon as a Kindle workbook. So I'm really excited about that, because in it are all the tools that I've used for myself and my clients. This particular one isn't. Source tapping, the predecessor is called RIT, R-I-T-T, and that's just, it's almost the same as what we did, and that's in the book. It's almost the same. I made a few other changes as it evolved, but you know, you can use RIT or you can use source tapping, and in here, along with some other energy techniques that are very fun to do.
Yay! More tools. I love tools. I'm a collector of these kind of tools. So thank you for letting everybody know. Check that out. I mean, how brilliant to have as much support as we can get to live our amazing lives and do all that we came here to do on the planet and really empower ourselves. So, yay! Thank you, Meryl, so much. And thank you to all the listeners for being here, for taking this time for you, for choosing to allow yourself to feel as amazing as you can in your beautiful body. And stay tuned. There's more interviews to come, more empowerment embodiment tools. So until then, bye for now. Say bye, Meryl.
Bye, everybody. Thanks,
Bye.
Darlene.
Thank you, Meryl, so much.
Thank you.